What's up, everybody? Thralls here once again. I'm Necrotic.
I'm Jammin, John.
And we have an album review for you, and one that I know I definitely want to go over, but I really know that he wanted to go over, because CHUG and Dissonance. We'll just go ahead and say that. This is like literally the perfect storm of Jammin John music here.
Yes, yes it is.
Yeah.
There's no denying here that I was definitely eagerly awaiting this album for a very long time and have jammed all the singles, and I was ready to go.
I know.
Yep.
So needless to say, we are going to go over the latest offering from Replicant, Infinite Mortality. This comes out on the 12th of April on Trend-Setting Obscurity Records. This band formed in 2014 in New Jersey. This is their third full length overall. I got into them with their second full length, Malignant Reality. I thought it was an absolute banger of an album. And describing this band, I mean, all right, on the archives it is listed as technical / avant-garde death metal. It kind of is and it kind of isn't. Like, I don't know, like that would be accurate to some degree on both of those, but also not entirely. I don't know, this band is just strange and honestly heavier than all of the toxic waste ever dumped in New Jersey. That's pretty damn heavy.
Yeah, that is incredibly heavy. There's a lot of toxic waste in New Jersey. Yeah, I got into this band also with their last album, Malignant Reality. It appeared on an episode of What's John Jamming. It was on my end-of-year list that year. I adored this band from the moment I heard them. So, yeah, much like I said, eagerly anticipating this release, and here it is, and I'm so happy it's here.
Yeah, and honestly, it's a little bit different than the last one. The last one, I mean, the first comparisons I made from the second I heard it were definitely Gorguts. Like, Gorguts, I would say, is a big influence, as well as Immolation, too, and maybe, like, some early Ulcerate. But I feel like this one kind of twists up a little bit more Demolish in it. They're kind of like indescribable, weird, lurching, technical, demon bullfrog death metal that they do. That is a bigger part of this one than I would say the last one.
And there's definitely more groove on this record too. Not that the last record was without groove, but like here they really kind of nailed down just the headbanging moments. It's still wild as all get out, but there are so many times on this record where those riffs just straight pound you into the ground. Good examples of that would be the song Reciprocal Abandonment and the last track, Planet of Skin. Just a massive song full of just the stankiest faced chugs you're gonna get on this whole record. Just gross.
Yeah, the last album, I feel like it had more, like, chaotic energy, and this definitely still has it, but I feel like it's, like, more controlled chaos. Like, you know, as the album goes on, it still is very unpredictable in terms of where the transitions are going, and it's still supplying an amazing amount of dissonance, coupled with a lot of chug, of course. But I feel like it is a little bit more riff-centric, but it's also different in the sense I feel like this album is more of a tale of two halves. There's definitely a side A and side B feel to it in terms of like it just being slightly different. The opening track, Acid Mirror, honestly is one of the most chaotic, twisted songs in this entire album, and that's how it starts. The transitions are buck nutty. The drum work on this entire album is absolutely, insane, marvelous. It's stop on a dime transitions, but there's a lot of different techniques being explored, and that being paired with the really awesome bass work, which is very audible and really flashy. Rhythmically, this album is also just very challenging because, again, you get some good straightforward grooves, lots of big syncopated chugs, but the syncopations are like kind of off time.
Oh,
and a little strange because they'll tag on like a weird riff at the end. But there's also like these weird kind of spacey transitions, and there's even like a jazz breakdown on Reciprocal Abandonment, which did not expect. I mean, it seemed like it was kind of in their wheelhouse though, but I didn't expect it to show up.
To me, it sounded a lot like stuff that appeared on later Candiria, like the 300% density era of Candiria, where they would, you know, get into these big chuggy grooves and then cut to jazz, and it just kind of has that vibe to it.
But the second half of this is definitely more like riff-centric. Like all of a sudden, like the riffs kind of take the forefront because the Dissonance really kind of takes the forefront on the first half for the most part. Like there's still a lot of good riffs in it, but I feel like there's more dissonant atmosphere. It feels more chaotic and unsettling, whereas side B of this is way more just like, all right, this is blunt force trauma time, more of the hefty syncopated chugs. And because the dissonance kind of steps back a little bit, I think the riffs get more technical and more flashy and honestly catchier. Like there's some like legit just flat out catchy riffs that at times I would say are almost comparable to like Gojira, which Gojira is good at, excessively chuggy music. Songs like Necrotunnel and Dwelling to the Threshold, they have like legit catchy riffs with solid straightforward grooves, and that's also something that changes a bit on the second half where rhythmically it's a little bit more straightforward. Like you definitely have your blast beat freakouts and just weird polyrhythmic chuggy breakdowns, but more often you see this band actually kind of like shift to a straightforward, more like just kind of head-bangable groove.
That was Necrotunnel for sure. Necrotunnel actually is probably the most straightforward thing on this record, and it's still not without its polyrhythmic moments and crazy transitions, but like for the most part that is just focused on groove.
Yeah,
like most of the whole song, and even the beats, like in the chorus, like it's pretty much just, I don't want to call it a D beat because it's not, but it's a really just kind of straightforward beat that lets that riff walk a little bit.
Yeah, and trust me, when we say straightforward, we mean straightforward compared to other stuff on this album.
Right.
Like, you're not going, oh man, this is going to be like listening to Pantera Walk. It's going to be easy, right? No. And how all of this comes together, I think, like sonically, is really impressive. The production here is just massive sounding. The drums sound like cannon fire often. Big, giant snare. The guitars themselves are just insanely heavy. Like right from the first chug, like you pretty much feel it. And then on top of that, you have the vocals, which have changed a little bit as well, too.
On the previous record, Malignant Reality had a lot more of the, I call them dog howl vocals. Just the sung from the throat, like it sounds like it hurts, just a bunch of like, ooh.
Oh, yeah.
And while this is still in here, it's not as prevalent. Like, I feel like the Malignant Reality was really focused on those dog howl vocals, and here you have, first of all, two vocalists. So you got one guy doing the dog howls and another guy doing a mixture of, like, between these absolutely devastating low growls and, like, higher screams, but it's not as focused on those nutty dog howls.
Yeah, those, I mean, they add a lot. Like, you get a little bit of that desperation, and plus with that kind of like cavernous effect on them. It sounds like some dude screaming out in the middle of the woods on a winter night. It's like, dude, you're not in a good way, are you? You're either going to make friends or make enemies with a bunch of wolves here really soon. But the low vocals and those like mid-range growls being used with those like howling vocals, I think adds like just like more heft to this. Like, there's a lot of sections where they're just, heavily chugging and kind of droning on those big syncopated chugs, and those vocals layered together makes those moments even more weightier.
Yeah, because really, 9 times out of 10, this record just pounds. Just unrelenting heaviness. It's in a majority of the songs. A Reciprocal Abandonment is stupid heavy. Dwelling on the Threshold, there's this nasty chug riff in the beginning, and then it's followed by a triplet chug riff, and it just pounds. And then the last track, I would even compare it to like Nightmare heavy. Like, actually, it's fucking gross.
Yeah, no, I thought about bringing them up for that one. And I mean, there's even some like just insanely just heavy triplet chug blast beat sections, like a la Decapitated. The song Orgasm of Bereavement, which I don't know what that song's about, because that combination of words just makes me think you had a sad wank after a funeral. I'm not here to judge. I'm here to review an album.
Who knows, man? Uncle Tim was a happening dude.
I miss Tim. Get me a towel. But that song is a good combination of like all the dissonant atmosphere. It's cold. It's just kind of deranged sounding, but there's like this heavy, syncopated, chuggy backbone to it. And it's like more explosive and blasty out of the gate too. Like, it's just a vicious song, but again, like it kind of, I don't know, slithers and weaves around. Like the way the guitars are on here in terms of how they complement one another, like you don't get a lot of traditional leads. You get a lot of like weird atonal melodies that complement a heavy chugging riff. And sometimes they come together for harmonies. Sometimes they just both go do their own thing, and it's like, this might actually work, like kind of a counterpoint thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, when it does come together, generally in the chugs, like it is unreal how heavy it is. The best example of that, for me, at least on this album, I thought was the song Planet of Skin, which closes out the album. And another joke here, I thought that would be like the name of a whole area of Disney World if it was located in New Jersey. Because that totally sounds like, oh, look, we can ride Scab Mountain. Isn't that wonderful, kids?
It's the Lost World of Toy Story.
Yeah, except like it's all like Toxic Crusaders, characters. Like, oh, hey, we can hang out with it. Don't get too close. Don't touch any of them.
Don't touch him.
No, but that song does a great job of just brutal, heavy, slow chugs. And in between all of the just heavy, lumbering chugs, you have this sort of droning sort of hum of ambience. And honestly, that's like kind of throughout the entire album. Like there's a constant din of noise, and it's not very intrusive. Like it's far enough back in the mix, but it's always present, and it always kind of keeps this album feeling very unsettling. Because like even in those quieter moments, it never feels comfortable. No. And I kind of like that. But the main thing I really liked is this really interesting blend of like dissonant death metal and kind of like, again, like old school tech death. Like there's moments on here I would compare to like Atheist. Like there's really awesome, dazzling, crawling, harmonies and such, and very cool technical play, but kind of being played through like a Demolish Gore Guts kind of filter where it's not necessarily like super, super melodic. It's more unsettling and technically impressive.
We're not talking like flashy noodly here or like neoclassical leads, that form of technical play. It's more of like technical in the presentation, just like everything is polyrhythmic, and when it's not, it's got this weird dissonant atonal vibe going on, and there's always some sort of just crap in the background, and you're like, I don't know. It's technical more in the overall composure sense.
Yeah, think technical like Immolation and not like Necrophagist.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
In terms of any negatives on here, honestly, I didn't have many. I did think that Acid Mirror was kind of like a really tough start off just because like they kind of just go all out. In fact, I would say technically wise, it might be one of the most technical tracks on the entire album. And that's kind of how the first half starts off. That and Acid Mirror goes right into Shrine of the Incomprehensible, which honestly kind of works as like one song. Like the transition between the track breaks there is invisible. Like you can't even tell where one starts and the other one ends.
Yeah, the drum beat that's on the end of Acid Mirror that goes into Shrine to the Incomprehensible it's just, there is no cut really. And that drum beat, oddly enough, reminds me a lot of Slipknot's Purity, just without that other snare drum roll that's in there. But it's got the same like bouncy groove to it. And I've listened to this record 4 times already today, and I can't shake it. Every time I hear it, I'm just like, that's what it is. But it's way heavier than that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I heard some like cool hardcore grooves, but it was like more in the realm of like Ion Dissonance.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's got all the dissonance, but it's again like more polyrhythmic, more start stop. But yeah, like I don't think it's like a bad start because I think the song is good. It's just like kind of just going all out right out of the gate, where I feel like if that track was a little bit later in the album, like still in the first half, because it really kind of fits the vibe of the first half of this album, but maybe a little bit later, like I think Shrine actually kind of kicks off a little bit better just because you get more grooves and riffs and you get that balance, all the dissonance. And yeah, there's like a little interlude track, but I can kind of see that being like the side A, side B if you're the vinyl collector.
Yeah.
It's dark, ominous noises and feedback, and it's creepy and haunting. And yeah, it's, the only thing on here I'd say that is, kind of filler-ish, but overall, I think this is awesome. And honestly, I kind of like it a little bit more than the last one, and I really like that last one. Mm-hmm. So overall, I'm going to give this 4 stars. I think this is a banger, and honestly, it's really close to a 4.5. Great riff work. I like how this is technical but riffy, and it's not like, technical wankery. Like this is just like really creative, clever playing. Even the use of a lot of syncopated chugs, the way they're doing it in terms of like the rhythms and such, it keeps them fresh and interesting. That dull sort of kind of hum in the background is also very unsettling. I like the vocal dynamics on here a lot more than the last one. And production-wise, this sounds great. Like if you're a big fan of like Gore Guts, Immolation, early Ulcerate especially too, I'm pretty sure you're going to dig this. And yeah, the extra Demolish vibes on here Dude, there's something about Demolich grooves. They're just those weird, kind of wacky, off-time ones, but even though you know there's a big hitch in them, you still kind of find it. It's like, yeah, this is good. Yeah, this is just an absolute banger of an album, and you should definitely check it out.
Well, as if anybody was questioning my rating, and I don't think any of you are, it's a 4.5 for me. This is 100% right up my alley, just as I expected it would be. As far as the complaint on Acid Mirror, while I get where you're coming from, when you get into this record more and you catch the overall vibe of the album, I mean, where else would you start? Because all these songs are wacky. And, like, while Shrine to the Incomprehensible may have had a little bit more to, like, latch onto in the beginning, I think Acid Mirror sets up what's going to happen to you in the rest of this album perfectly. That's my take. I don't know. Doesn't really matter, I guess, to this guy who has an issue with it. But
you live on the corner of Chug and Dissonance Avenue.
I do. I do live on the corner of Chug and Dissonance Avenue, and this record is full of it. But again, the way that these songs are composed and structured and put together, like you said, there's this really cool mixture of awesome riffs and crazy dissonant moments. Like, the atmosphere in here, there's always something going on. The riffs are insane. Even outside of those chuggy moments, most every riff has this really cool tag on the end of it where it's either some sort of weird melody or some sort of dissonant harmony. The constant, like, triplet moments, a bunch of start-stop things. This is just all that I love about death metal, to be honest. Like, all of it. Like, this speaks to the chug and dissonance animal within me. All these songs are grossly entertaining and devastatingly heavy. Definitely a Gorguts vibe. 100% the band named Teeth, but not the hardcore band. The dissonant, crazy, chuggy band that sounds kind of like this. Immolation, definitely Iron Dissonance, and a huge Demolich vibe. And really, if any band gets a comparison to Demolich, it already kicks it up a notch in my mind because Demolich rules. Replicant rules. This album is fucking awesome. I would recommend going out and getting this right away.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there's a link down below to thrallsmetal.com. Our Patreon link is there. It is also on our channel, the banner in the bottom right-hand corner. But if you're looking for Thralls Metal stuff, you have to go to thrallsmetal.com, because we have t-shirts, both new and old. The old ones are discounted, provided we have your size. We even have hats too, so if you're looking for any of that stuff, click the link down below.
And certainly, last but not least, thank you to all of you, to our wonderful subscribers and our fans and the people that keep us going. We genuinely appreciate you. Tons of stuff coming at you from Thralls of Metal, album reviews, discography rankings, Meshuggah's up next, States of Metal, the Is It Metal, Is It Not Metal, probably going to have some interviews later this year. I don't know what's going to happen, but a ton of cool stuff coming your way regardless, and we do it all for you guys. We thank you. We genuinely appreciate you. Thank you for making Thralls of Metal a household name.
Yeah, you guys absolutely rule. And if you are watching this right now, know full well that I am not here right now. I am actually in Philly, and
that's weird. It seems like he's right here. I can feel the vibe.
It's an illusion.
It's crazy.
It's AI.
The holographics.
But yeah, I will be at the Decibel Metal and Beer Fest, and yeah, see me float around, come up, say hi, shoot the shit. And yeah, looking forward to seeing a bunch of kick-ass bands. And when I get back, gonna definitely tell you about my experience out there. But yeah, one more big thank you, because you guys are awesome, and we will catch you later.